Welcome back to Conversations and Catapults, the #1 after show for the #1 D&D podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, and today I wanted Luke to bleep that right off the bat to keep him on his toes.
Get rid of that.
Who else do I have here?
Hi,
Carlo,
welcome back as well. Okay. Welcome back. My name is Ben. I have also been here for the past week. I have never left, and I play the level 6 gnome wizard, Windsor Wallaby, on the hit podcast Trials and Trebuchets.
Hey, it's me, Carla. And I play the Tiefling Rogue Integrity Tiefling Roguelock Integrity Addleberry from the hit podcast Trials and Trebuchets.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I play Mira, Redacted, the level 6 half-elf bard. Yay.
Luke will have to
I didn't know your last name was Redacted.
Remove everyone's name.
It's true.
Oh, wow.
Marshawn is actually just like her mom's maiden name. That's just like what she usually goes by, but her real last name is indeed Redacted.
Whoa.
Oh, that's so cool.
Nice.
We're learning so much about Mira today. Hi guys, my name is Sam. I'm not saying my last name. And I play the level 6 human sorceress, Serenep Cinderman. And I have to say, after these 2 weeks of just kind of sitting in silence and staring at you guys, I can say that we've definitely grown closer as friends.
True.
Absolutely. And I would say that everyone has also grown as a D&D party, haven't you? Not only have you been able to breathe life into your own characters, but we've seen over the past 2 episodes, you as players get to mold the wider world around you as well. Notably,
They said mold. What do they mean?
I'm specifically referring to in 118 and 119. In 118, the 4 of you were able to design elders.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
I wanted to ask a little bit about that to start us off. When designing elders or like things like this that are purely aesthetic, because we have seen this elsewhere in doing the history final.
That was
all
so
those many
long
weeks
ago. Wasn't that like episode
Oh, man.
18?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez.
I was very young then.
It was
As all of
really
us
long time
were.
ago.
We've literally
was
grown
36.
2 years.
36? Wow, I thought it was earlier than that.
Tweet at Trials and Trebuchets with the answer when you first listen to this.
Episode 29. Lawful boring.
Damn.
Wow.
All right, let's see if you were able to beat Sarah's time. Anywho, now, so when you are designing things like that, what goes into your mind when designing? Are you out there to impress other people at the table? Are you trying to do something that fits with what Luke has already created? Or are you trying to leave your own personal stamp on the world around you? And also, it can be none of these things. It can be, I just wanted to say something that sounded like very cool.
I know personally, I think like when I am given any chance to build the world, I'm working off of like old like fantasy novels I've read as a kid. Like in my head, when you're thinking of like an elder being, like I think of like animals that we usually see as like very wise. So like an owl, for instance, in my head is a very wise animal. So I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense to have as one of the elders at least, because that's just kind of how my mind views fantasy. It bounces around, but like that's kind of how I think of what things are very prominent in like a fantasy magic world.
I like that. Now, are there ever things that you find that you have to like steer yourself away from? Because I think that while the Trials and Trebuchets stuff is fantasy, I would say that has a very specific kind of brand of fantasy where there is like a wide array of like amount of magic used in different fantasy settings.
Yeah.
So do you keep that in mind, like the Trials and Trebuchets like level of magic compared to something that might be a bit more steampunk, where they don't have magic but they do have weird technology or things like that? And I'm just, going off the top of my head here.
I would say I try to keep to the sense of, I like to think, I want to say that I'm keeping to the idea of like Trials and Trebuchets, like magical animals, like is a lot of what we have. Like Mr. Wiggles obviously was our first introduction to any kind of magical animal that wasn't like a not an NPC, that's a weird thing to say, but like Sylvie, for instance, is a dragonborn. So like there's like ancient magic connected to that. And then there's Mr. Wiggles who's here and he's like super powerful and he's like magical as well. And then we have all of our pets and stuff. I like to think that I'm keeping with the ideas of Trials and Trebuchets, which is basically, I feel like anything has the potential of magic.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
For me, like, one of the vibes that I very much get from the plane of Isithel is that it's a lot of mundane stuff made to be larger than life. We see that with, for example, everything with the rock people or, you know, the tree person, even like the newts. It's parts of nature, especially the moles. It's a lot of nature, but like made to be larger than life. And that's sort of what I was trying to get at with the sort of the walrus with like the ginormous like antler branching out tusks. I feel like it was sort of something that we would immediately recognize as being familiar, but made into this much larger than life and, you know, therefore more magical thing is sort of what I was trying to get at. And also I just thought that it would look cool.
It 100% does.
Look cool. It's very specifically, it felt like you were targeting me and my taste.
Wow.
When you made a walrus with like branching tusks, that's 100% my thing.
Sorry for the IP theft.
No, it's
but I
whatever.
do
It's just
legally own
going
half of your intellectual property, so...
Damn.
You receive like a letter in the mail saying it's a cease and desist.
It just says, "Dear Sarah,
yeah.
cease and desist," signed Nathan.
Stop.
There's no like no legalese on it. It's just that.
Stop.
Listen, that's all it should take, right?
Definitely.
Absolutely. Anywho, now, Sarah, in going for that larger than life, I also appreciate how you kind of go into the mixing a walrus with another kind of like natural but foreign creature, which would be in this case like a deer or a moose or some other sort of like creature with branching antlers or things of that nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, I really appreciate the twist on that as well, of like kind of Luke often talks about how the vibrancy of Isithil is just the natural world turned up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy the idea of like mix and matching different aspects of natural creatures.
Especially like being from entirely different biomes and everything too. I think that's really fun.
Exactly. Agreed. Ben, Carla, what about you when designing, you know, and it doesn't have to just be the elders. It could have also been when you were designing things for that history exam. And if you can remember anything that you created in that history exam, I will give you 100 points.
Let's go back and listen to the episode, guys.
I think I
remember.
know. Yeah, I think I know exactly what I did for that. So, in my case, I am very much a fan, or an aficionado, as I would like to call it, of the weird and wonderful. And I would say the setting that we're in is like highly magical. And in a place that has like a lot of magic, anything is pretty much possible. So I take that as an open invitation to be like, okay, let's see how far we can push this. And then
You don't see it as an invitation, you see it as a challenge.
Yes.
You're like,
and it also
where is
gives
Luke
me
gonna make
it
me draw the
also
line?
gives me an opportunity to sort of like leave my own mark in Luke's campaign, to be like, here's this, see what you can do with it. I will be watching. So that's why I
cool.
decided to go with the whole design for one of the Isithil elders, with like the whole spider aesthetic and like the weird claw hands that give you the okay sign, and with the statue face. I just feel like it's not something that you expect, but that's also something that you could expect in a place like Isithil.
Ooh.
I really love that. That was nightmarish to me in a very good way. I don't know. When you said like a spider, but with claws on the ends of the legs doing the okay sign, I did not care for that one.
But yeah,
That was
and
no
I
good.
think that was also the case with the exam thing. Or I believe what it was, it had something to do with some sort of position of power, or like position in some sort of like system. And I believe it was something about like the jester was something important. It was something along those lines, but I can't exactly remember what it was for. I think it was some sort of like important position that had some say in some things. I don't remember or recall 100% exactly what it was. But it was along that line.
Unfortunately, partial credit is not available for the 100 points.
Well, I tried.
In this case, you did try though, and for that you do get points.
I get brownie points.
Carla,
Honestly, my answer to how I came up with a green capybara with angel wings is I thought it was cute. And the fact that this exists in this world means that there's a potential for me to meet a green capybara with angel wings. I'm like happy about that.
You
So
basically
that's-
created the giant
Yes.
version of a pet you want. in
Make the world
future.
how you want it
That
to
fucking
be.
rules.
That's actually the most brilliant approach that you could ever have towards world building, in my opinion.
Carla is the
Because-
architect of her own dreams, and we love
This
that.
is cool, so I want to meet said cool thing.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. I love that we're getting the wide range of wanting to just keep create something that's within the line of what has already been created, trying to make your own stamp in the world. And also, whenever I have control over something, I want it to benefit me in some way.
I mean, it's cute. I think that it still in a way fits Isithil. Like that's why I was like, it's bright green. But
Oh yeah.
I just added wings because like a flying capybara is cute AF. So
True.
Luke knows
is-
the danger when he hands over any kind of power to us to create anything. He knows what happens.
Exactly.
I just imagine, like, in your darkest hour, you're just like, you look up to the sky and you see some shape descending and the wings unfurled and it's just it's like a large green capybara and it just like extends a hand out and just gives you something. It's like, take this, my
becomes your new
child, and
patron.
just flies away.
that sounds like something from a Greek mythology.
It honestly does.
And
Be not afraid.
like that's the thing, like it's just something cool, and to know that it exists in the world that we live in, or at least the characters live in, is exciting. And the same way that I created the celestial being for the test.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the Celestial ruled.
And
Go ahead, describe
and-
what part of this celestial being you made.
And I was like, well, I want an elephant tusk on a on a skull. And the funny thing about that is I completely forgot that the tusk of elephants, like it's not like there's like a rigid bone that makes up their tusk. So basically there's a skeleton who just has like a rigid tusk that you can't move around. And I didn't realize that until like Luke sat me down after, like when we were just like hanging out, and it was like, you do know that like elephants don't have like that kind of tusk, right? I'm like, wait, that's true. That makes me sad now.
That's what makes
That
it
is the
fantasy
most-
and magical.
Yeah, that's the
Magical.
most Luke shit I've ever heard, which is, hey, you know that fantasy skull that you designed for our podcast couldn't happen. You know that, right?
Well, I just like had like a different imagination for it, and like my rational like I don't know, when it comes to when I'm under pressure, logic like leaves my brain. So now I'm sad that their tusk is wait, no, it's not their tusk, their nose, their long
Trunk?
thing,
Their trunk?
Yeah.
That their trunk is rigid and it can't like go around and stuff.
Oh.
That's it. Do I get 100 points?
You do get 100 points.
Yay.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
absolutely.
this is the first thing I've won in this game. In this,
You did it.
Well, this isn't one of the segments. These points are tracked very separately than the
Oof.
game points.
Oof.
No, let me defeat them.
Let me win.
Now, I had another question on when you all have to create something for the podcast. Do you like it when Luke tosses that over your way? Or would you rather just be like responsible just for your own character? And when does it excite you? When does the opportunity to add to the world excite you?
I think playing
Because I
like
doubt-
established characters that we have like regularly interacted with, like other student NPCs, is a little bit stressful. Just because like when I was playing Alina, like it was fun, but it was like, what am I doing? Like, is this right? Whereas when it's something that is very much more like getting to create something new that like hasn't previously existed, I feel like there's less of that fear of, is this going to be consistent with what's already here, and more like, oh, I have the opportunity to do something new here. So I really enjoyed getting to like do some of the Shiora stuff, as opposed to, I mean, I still did enjoy getting to play Alina that one time, but this I found to be more enjoyable.
Yeah, it's one thing to sort of play like your character, but it's another thing entirely to like play another character that is created by someone else and they already have an established personality and history and everything. So being in control of that, it's kind of hard, like, oh, I don't really want to throw a wrench in this, but maybe, I don't know. It's a little bit more like the adrenaline sort of takes over sometimes. But in the situation where we're like, oh, we are given free reign to sort of like build something from the ground up, I feel like that is definitely much more enjoyable in my opinion. But it's not to say that the other sort of in control of another character is like less fun, because it does make for some very interesting sort of like lore and such, if you get what I'm saying.
I do get what you're saying. And you're absolutely right. It does make that lore and the things that you learn about the world itself more interesting when you know that it's made collaboratively. Now, Carla, Sam, do either of you have any like thoughts on when you like to have that kind of control, or?
I think comparing in the exam episode where we were told kind of in advance, or at least we had more time to like process, okay, so depending on how we roll, what we say in this as our answer is going to have an effect. I think I definitely like panicked a bit more when creating something because I had too much time to think about it, whereas creating the Elder was very sudden, and I was like, oh, what if this thing was here? That would look really cool. Like, I want to make this, that kind of stuff.
Oh, so having like the heads up essentially caused you to stress out about it more?
Yeah, because like I'm trying to both work within another person's world. This is also adding a history to the world, and then if I go too deep into it, I just start kind of spiraling around the same idea over and over again until I end up shooting off into the far left.
I follow you.
Yeah.
As for me, I don't think that I've had the experience to actually play a specific character just yet. So it's hard for me to see if that is something that I would enjoy more. But based on like the outcomes of it, like seeing other people do it, what happened in like the past 2 episodes, and giving like Ben and Sarah the reins on specific characters, I was shook. It was like so much like adrenaline. So from someone who is listening to other people do it, it seems like a great experience. And so I really can't say which one I enjoy more. But I would be interested in doing that in the future. But I'm so bad at coming up with stuff. So who knows?
No, I totally get that. And speaking of Ben and Sarah having that opportunity to control those characters in episode 119, Ben, you had control over Faramel, and Sarah, you had control over Terrassus.
Yes.
Now, when you have to play these characters who we've already seen, who have already been established, what aspects of those characters do you keep in mind when you play them? And does having this like kind of control over these specific NPCs change your perception of them? Like, Ben, are you going to view Faramel differently now that you've actually played a little bit in his shoes, so to speak?
I would say probably not, because that's something that we, the players, know. But I know that for the eventual next time that we meet a character such as Faramel, unless they reveal that information to us themselves, I don't think that would really change my opinion of them, considering how little we really know about them and how they sort of interacted with us in the beginning. They're kind of like suspicious and weird. So no, I don't think it would change my opinion on them in the terms of like they are a good or bad person.
Sarah, what about you?
Well, as some of you might know, I've sort of been doing my own little writing project with Terrassus. So I have this like, it's not really a theory insofar as like I think this is what actually happened on the show, but it's sort of my interpretation, which is that one of the reasons that Nesca and Empress Terrassus do not like each other is that they are in fact exes. And so I have this sort of fanfic writing project detailing my sort of a scenario where they sort of grew up together and became very close and were friends, and sort of what happened to make them hate each other now and what like destroyed the kingdom. You can look it up on AO3. It's called Event Horizon.
Leaked deets.
Leaked deets. So I really had to be careful when I was doing that, because I didn't want to like take my own like projection of the character and like put it on to like the podcast, right? And so what I was really trying to do was think back to those scenes where she was meeting with Mira and just sort of try to sort of on one hand emulate her sort of sense of being, but also recognizing that there's sort of a difference between who she obviously is now, which is this, I imagine, a little bit world-weary ghost who's like dealt with the death of her whole people, and what I imagine she would have been at the point of that scene where, you know, she's probably a lot more naive and optimistic about like what's going to happen to the kingdom and like, oh, this is a good person that's contacting us to help our kingdom, while still kind of having the responsibility to like be accountable for all of these people. So I was sort of trying to take all those things into account, if any of that parsed into any kind of coherent sentence.
No, it absolutely did. And it also is interesting to me because you do have this history with the character, and you had an opportunity to, like, I don't think that you were going to, like, use your opportunity to say, yes, I'm Terrassus. More sacrifices. Also,
More sacrifice.
where's my girlfriend Nesca, who I love to kiss?
I mean, that actually, I did say that. It just got cut from the episode. No. I'm kidding.
You know what?
Bring her to me at once.
Bring me my
We are
lipless
going
snake
to a
girlfriend.
picnic.
We're supposed to go on a date.
I love my wife. Yes.
Oh my god, they
Yes.
got married?
Redacted.
Redacted.
Oh. Anywho, if you want to find out, go on AO3, look up Event Horizon. Anywho, so, but you have these opportunities to add, like, to make your headcanon a little bit more canon. It's this very weird thing where in a tabletop RPG, you have a shared authorship. And when that authorship is expanded a little bit more widely, it's this very interesting place where it puts us as a creator to like figure out how much we want to like steer a character.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think that Luke would have been cool if you had some sort of like nod towards, let's just say, your fanfic. It doesn't even have to be the relationship. It can just be a nod to a character there, like just saying a name that you came up with.
I guess I'm just a little worried there because like I don't know that much yet about like into like I know some parts of what Luke's vision of Shiora is, but I didn't want to say anything that would have accidentally contradicted that to be like self-indulgent. You know what I mean? So I was trying to be as sort of general as possible and stick to what was there, just because I didn't want to say anything and then have it be like, no, that's not correct. That's not how that works here.
The commenters will come to be like, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone loves that, yeah.
Oh.
But no.
Hey, we love it when people correct us on this show.
It's the funnest.
It's so much fun.
Fun.
I did actually have one more thing before we wrap up, which I think, you know, now is a good time for us to go ahead and wrap up. What do you all think?
What about... Oh, we're doing that.
One segment? Yeah, we're doing a segment before we wrap up. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
One last thing before we head out was I have a new game, something that is not Battleships.
Oh.
Everyone was writing in telling me Battleships is stale. No one likes to talk about Battleships.
They do that?
I went in.
Lies.
They didn't. No one has done that, actually. Everyone loves Battleships.
Okay.
But I did get a lot of people writing in saying, change the game. Carla needs to score. And so I went into the lab and we have come up with a brand new game. However, a title is still being worked on here.
Title pending.
Right now, working title, Tinfoilery.
Tinfoilery.
It's like tomfoolery. It's
Tomfoolery.
It's like what? Babe, it's like what?
It's like...
Can you repeat that for the audience?
up.
For the children?
I swear to God, if this ends up on a blooper.
No, this is making it into the episode. Can I hear it?
No, it's not. No. It's working title, Tinfoilery.
Which is a play on...
Which is a play off of tomfoolery.
Oh, there goes Nathan. There he goes.
All right, so here is how the game is played. I have asked our great fans to help me out for this game, and I'm asking you, our listeners, to help me out as well. I need all of the fan theories that I can get from our listeners regarding the events of this podcast.
There's a lot.
There are so many, which I learned firsthand, and I feel like I am going to learn even more firsthand after this episode goes live. The object of the game is this. I will present 3 theories, 2 of which are from real fans, 1 of which is from me, a fake fan.
Are you not a real
Oh
fan?
boy.
I helped make it. I'm a fake fan.
Oh no.
They don't
Yes.
even listen to the podcast.
What?
Exactly.
Gosh. I mean, I don't listen to the podcast either.
What? I don't either.
I have to work.
I don't listen to Conversations and Catapults. That's just joking. I do listen. I love my own shit. Anywho, let us go ahead and begin. This week, I have just one good set of theories here. The first, Teb used to live down in the secret door by the kitchens and kind of watch over the hatch, but he seems to have forgotten his purpose. The second theory, Dane actually lost his orb to Faramel and lived in Nebulosus in the hopes that the desert would prevent the Ice Mage from reaching him.
Ooh.
Or 3, I believe that many of the secret passages in the school, such as the ones leading into the sewer / into Nesca's chamber or into Teb's house, may have been installed by Fadan, Artis, or both, as a way to keep an eye on the hatch stuff, basically. Now, 2 of these are correct, one of which is fake.
When you say correct,
You are... Excuse me. 2 of these are from Luke himself. That's the actual
Wait.
game.
Wow.
No, 2 of these
We're
are
just dropping that.
legitimate. That's a better word for
Okay.
it. 2 of these are
real
legitimate.
theories from real fans.
There we go.
One is fake.
I don't
and
think this game, what's the word for it? Like, increased my chance of winning, because it seems like I'm also horrible at this.
You haven't even done anything yet, Carla. I believe in you.
Carla,
Yeah.
you got this.
Okay.
And if you guys would like, feel free to discuss among yourselves. You can use this as a collaborative game. It is not
Collaborate
You know.
amongst
Nathan,
us.
just send me the answer and then.
no.
Nathan can't do that. They are a fair and just person who would let anyone get points, right, Nathan?
The third one is interesting because I don't know, like Artis used the secret passage to come and meet us before the Nesca fight. I don't know why he would have kept it a secret if he was like, "Oh, that's me. I made that secret passage. Now I'm using it to find you." Like I feel like he would have.
Well,
I don't know why that
I
would.
wanna be
secretly
clear.
Architect as well.
So
We're looking for things. Here's the real point of the game. You're really trying to nail me for some shit that seems like I would come up
Yeah.
with.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm like working
you-
out the logic of these.
I'm
These.
it could either be the third one or the second one because
I'm feeling second.
I'm not familiar with any theories surrounding Dane, the orb, and like the desert specifically.
Would it help if I gave you some background on who the theories are from this person?
Maybe? I don't know.
Because
Maybe it would make it more confusing.
they're all from one person this time.
All from
Is it
one.
Lady
all
Gold?
from you,
Two of
Nathan.
them.
No, well, 2 of them.
Is it Lady Gold?
It is Lady Gold.
Aha.
Yeah, I knew it.
Mm.
Okay, I
And
think the
for
second
those
one.
of
I
you-
think the second one is you.
Okay, we have one person who's saying number 2.
If I had to choose between the third one and the second one, I would probably go with the second one.
Carla and Sam, what do you think? Do you trust your co-players? Or do you go by your own heart? Who do you follow?
I think that it is the third one.
I also think it's the third one. Yeah.
Watch it be
Just
the
because,
first.
like, I can't imagine.
Yeah, watch it be the first one.
Yeah. I can't imagine them, like, having a drill and drilling through the school.
To just explain myself, I thought it was the first one, and then you guys were like, because like you guys know Nathan better than I do.
None of these are in
So-
Nathan's writing
No,
style, so I think
no,
they changed some
not really.
words around
Oh.
to disguise how they write, and I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah.
the second one.
I did change things
sneaky.
around to disguise how I write.
Mhm.
Yeah, you could have
Yes.
done 3 and had it be like, I also, like, in the same way that when you're playing fibbage with someone and, like, you're pretending to be them, you, like, say I, like, you're pretending that you're the other person
Yeah.
and they don't know how to play the game. Like, I can definitely see you doing that, but the second one feels... Okay, honestly, I think that the second one feels the least on brand for Lady Gold, which
True.
automatically makes me think it's you.
I would also agree with that.
That's true. That's true.
Lady Gold is really focused on like the stuff that happened like 40, 100, all of the like the times ago when like so Daft were in school, which both 1 and 3 focus on. So those automatically feel more on brand to Lady Gold for me. And so that makes me more inclined to think the second one is Nathan.
Yeah, and I haven't actually seen
Ooh.
like many theories revolving around Dane and Faramel specifically, like that combination. So it's just kind of strange that would be in there. Unless there's been conversation about that I haven't been aware of, but the second one really sticks out like a sore thumb in my opinion.
All this is telling me is that I really have to go to Discord more often and listen to all the theories myself as well.
There's a lot.
And so do you, dear listener. You should also go to the Discord and look at all the theories
Discord
on
plug,
the restricted
Discord plug.
section.
Initially, I was like thinking, wait, I guess like I can choose two that is like very centered on Daft, and that is like telling. But then I realized that all three is related to at least one member of Daft. So I was like, well, I guess my attempt at this is not going to work.
All right, Ben and Sarah are locked in, saying that number 2 was written by yours truly. Carla, Sam, are you two locked in for, you said number 3, correct?
I'm sticking with 3.
I'm
Sticking with 3?
Here we go.
Congratulations, Ben and Sarah.
Woo!
You are correct. Which the cruel irony is
more often.
the two of you are
We're
still
tied
tied for first place on the game board.
Damn it!
And
Carla, we're in last place together.
Yay!
well,
no,
not
that's
quite.
true.
Not technically, no, not quite.
Unfortunately, now it's just, instead of just the battleship ongoing scoreboard, it's just the game segment ongoing scoreboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
I was
that
hoping
there
we
should
would just have a giant board of different game titles and then the points underneath it, like a mad scrawling.
Oh, that would be too much. No, it's just one scoreboard, a dozen different games. Tune in next time to hear all of them.
You need a bar
For
graph.
now. But for now, just come right back after a short break. I am going to be sliding into the DMs with our good friend Luke. Bleep. And hopefully he's going to bleep that one too. I'm really keeping him on his toes from start to finish this time. Luke.
He's quite the isn't he?
All right, well, I hope that you all had a time, and I will talk to you all next time on Conversations and Catapults. Welcome back to another installment of Sliding into the DMs. I am your host, Nathan, and this is Luke.
Hi, I always forget that it's called that, and it always makes me giggle.
Who you may know as the very giggly DM from Trials and Trebuchets.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode. I'm so glad to be here.
And we're so happy to have you here, Luke.
All of us, we, the collective, or just Nathan, is it that the royal we? Are you assuming a monarchy over our podcast?
You see, folks, you record 3 episodes, you just start to phone it in after that point.
I mean,
you
if everyone who ever comments about the show says CNC is amazing, I love CNC. If CNC gets more downloads per week than your regular episodes, then I think it's just fair at that point.
Well, we take 2 weeks to make CNC because, like, what people don't realize is that the making of Conversations and Catapults is actually far more in-depth than making Trials and Trebuchets.
That's true.
Just because the prep work that goes into it is so much
exists.
more.
Yeah.
Think about it. For Trials and Trebuchets, to record an episode of Trials and Trebuchets, what do you have to have ready? A session of D&D ready to go?
I gotta have some little dices. I gotta scribble a note on a napkin that says frog voice. And boom, that's an arc.
And when you think about it, for Conversations and Catapults, you have to do that times 2 because we discussed 2 episodes. And so each episode is basically just prep for Conversations and Catapults.
Yeah,
I think
true.
Yeah, we know who the flagship is. But let's get
so
this.
Fucking giggly today. Hey, everyone listening. I'm so fucking sorry, Nathan. I'm so fucking sorry. I'm giggly as shit. I've barely talked to anyone today. It's great.
Let's get this flagship in the water, and go ahead and start discussing episodes 118, 119.
Good episodes.
I was very fond of them.
A really, I would say, a bit of a shift from the tone of the past couple episodes, which were very relaxing and peaceful and cozy, and then we took a big old left turn into Memoryville. and it's fun.
Indeed, you did. And actually, there was a shift not only from the last few episodes, but also in general, which is in episode 119, when we were able to see the Conjure Memory spell being cast. This is less of a question and more of me directly giving you props for exposition really well done, because in D&D, exposition, hard to do. You are so used to, as a DM, having NPCs be the way that you transmit knowledge, that you end up using them for exposition, and so you talk. A lot of any lore dumping is just coming from the mouth of an NPC. Luke, I wanted to talk to you a bit about doing a lore dump that did not come betwixt the lips of an NPC, but instead was shown in front of the player's very eyes. Now, tell me, where did the idea for like Conjure Memory or like using this as a tool even come from? How long has it been like in the works and all that jazz?
Yeah. So so we started the podcast, and in the first arc, The Sunken Hatch, the wonderful student, our level at that time 2 tiefling, at that time rogue, found a wand in episode 3, and never thought another moment of it as we proceeded. And then Carla, in like private conversations, would sometimes bring up like, oh, I wonder about that wand. Well, there's other stuff going on, so it's probably not that important, etc., etc. And then it was around food for thought, so like episode 40-ish, like the start of Food for Thought, when nothing had really been kicked off at that point, or nothing in the foreground had really kicked off at that point, that she started talking to me more about. That was like when she started trying to get Ida really strongly, right? And her pink topaz.
We all remember the saga of the pink topaz and Ida.
We do. It feels like it went on for way longer than it did. It was only like 20 episods. It felt
only
like
20 weeks. Only 20 weeks of your life. Were you invested in this?
When you put it like that. But her other chore that I know she was really interested in doing was the wand. And I always just kept waiting for her to bring it up, and then she never did. And that was always like, it's always moderately frustrating for me as the DM, because I feel like I speak for the players a lot. And you might notice that. And that's just the way our group kind of runs, honestly. Especially in combat, I think you can notice that quite a bit. Is the character... They'll attack, and then I will narrate the attack, and they'll be like, oh, cool, or whatever.
Well, yeah, every table has like the whole... A DM's duties are going to differ from table to table. Like some people may want to describe what their character does in combat. Another person does not care about that. They just want to be able to say funny things to NPCs. And that's okay. That's fun.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be set in stone either. If you think of something particularly cool, it's fun to speak up, right? Like, it's the fun joy of it. I think that ties back into what's going on in episode 119, is shifting what everyone's doing at a given moment, because everyone taking on new roles can be super fun and novel, right? And so back to the wand, or back to the reason why the wand likely didn't come up that much, is Carla had been bringing it up to me. And I assumed that given moments of downtime, which some arcs feature heavily, I was hoping that she would be proactive about going out and getting that sorted, right? Getting the wand fixed, etc. And I always had this thought in the back of my mind of like, oh, when she gets the wand fixed, how would she learn who had that, right? And that idea kind of developed. We almost got moments of that in a different arc that I won't say here, because I won't say here. And I don't think the notes are up on Patreon for like the people who pay for that tier, but they might be going up soon. And yeah, there's a few spoilers about that and stuff, so I don't really want to go into it, which is a low-key ad for the Patreon notes, which you don't get super spoilers, but if you are keen, you can piece a lot of stuff together that I don't censor out. Like, I censor out a lot of big Shiora stuff, but like little bits I don't.
Yeah, Luke doesn't post answers to questions, but he does post lots of clues. If you're into the Patreon.
Clues.
Yeah.
Nathan, you once said something to me that stuck in my brain so much about like, I don't know if this was when we were recording or if it's just something you said casually in like a random conversation about like, oh, listening, it feels like information is one of the most important things, right? In like the game that I'm running, and like I hold clues really, really, really close to my chest. It just came up in the last episode of CNC where I was like, oh, there's a thing about elders that I don't think the players noticed, which that's just that Semilai is the third eldest. And I said it and they just didn't pick up on it. So then instead of being like, oh, this isn't a big deal, I was just like, well, I'm now going to keep this a dear secret and not say a word about it. So then when Carla started asking me about it, because she'd seen conversation about it between listeners, she was like, wait, is that true? And I was just like, I don't know. That's an interesting theory. Sure. Shucks. Wow. Gosh. Right. But it's like, yeah, go listen to the episode. It's very obvious. Like you picked it up.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so that all tying back together, I knew that there was information associated with the wand. I wanted Carla, and therefore Integrity, to be proactive about going and fixing it and finding it. And so she honestly had the idea between Faint of Heart and Scandal in Academia to get the wand fixed. Or I guess in Faint of Heart, she started getting the wand fixed by the wonderful Kurt Orlane. And then throughout that time, she was like, is there a way I could make a spell, or is there a spell in D&D to do this? And I was like, there are memory modification spells, but to get exactly what you're looking for, it would probably have to be something a bit homebrewed. And so for that purpose, I built an incredibly overpowered spell, and I'm not super happy with the way that I adjudicated the rules of her using that spell, but
I thought it was a great time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah, you have my stamp of approval as a listener.
Oh,
someone
I'm really
who's
glad.
like, Bop, yeah, that was cool as shit.
Yeah, I don't homebrew stuff that... I say I don't homebrew stuff that often, but I do it every single arc rampantly. But I don't feel super comfortable homebrewing spells and items very much. Monsters are a lot easier for me, but spells are scary because they're complicated. So anyways, so the idea for the memory stuff came directly from Carla, because that was her idea of, oh, I'm going to pull the memories out of this. But then the concept that she could use it on different items arose when I was like, I just asked her one night, like, what are you going to use it on? And she was like, what does that mean? I was like, well, it's conjure memory. It's not like conjure memory from this one weird wand you found in the hatch. Like, you could use it on freaking anything that you wanted. She was like, oh my gosh. Like, and then she was like eaten up by like the indecision of what do I use it on?
Oh my
right?
goodness. And so then that's when you have to get the big room with all of the god magic in it. That way you can use it on two things.
Yes. There was a plan to allow her to use it also in Scandal, which is the arc where she got it, because they go into this mansion and they go into the magicified version of the mansion, which also I would have counted very strongly as a source of potent magic, right? Like a strong pool of magic. Which is when I expected it to happen, but then it didn't, and I was like, oh, okay,
There's
that's
just
fine.
far less. When you think like a great source of magic, you'd think a place where like chanting would occur, and
I
not...
much prefer it happening where it did.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it came at a great point.
What did you think about the whole shtick with that location, I should ask? Maybe I'm just hung up. I really like that location.
Tell me what you like about it.
Oh, it's like Isethil, but a bit weirder and a bit, I don't like...
See, to me, it was taking Isethil to like its extreme in a way, which I think is like, I actually really like it, because to me, Isethil is the natural world, as you've already talked about. Hell, I think I even mentioned this on the player segment of this very episode, of Isethil being a very natural extension of the world.
Yeah.
And I really like that taken even further, to a point of, there was almost, I don't know if Fever Dream might not be the right descriptor for it, but it definitely had that.
I think that
yeah,
etherealness.
An
Would that be a good
etherealness,
word?
yeah. Like, I keep on trying to think of like a dark word for whimsy.
Can that be the episode title?
Yeah, very threatening whimsy.
I like that. I want that to be the entire energy of the show, Nathan. If every single episode someone came away and was like, that was very darkly whimsical, I would be happy with that. Someone recently compared the show to Adventure Time, which makes me happy because I love the energy of Adventure Time, which I would describe as like candy coated existentialism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the idea that we could even approach that with something just darker, whimsy, brings such a joy to my heart. But I think even the episodes I said like, oh, I really like this area. Isn't this cool? And like all the
It's
players are
very
like,
cool.
yeah, I guess, Luke, why are you complimenting yourself right now?
I have no idea what I could reference just because, well, then again, actually, no, 118 is actually out, so I know what has made it into the edit and what has not.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff cut.
I'm always worrisome about like referencing directly like what certain things that happen directly in the recording, just because I have no idea what is going to make it in and what isn't. Even though I should know, like if it's plot relevant, it'll probably make it in. But I don't know.
Well, it's crazy that the 119 cut just cut all the memory section.
Oh, goodness gracious. But also, I did want to talk about in 119 having to do with the memory section.
Mm-hmm.
There is something that you and I have spoken about, and I don't know if we did that on mic or not.
It's so difficult.
But
these recording sessions are like 4 hours long, by the way, listeners. So the line between Nathan and I knowing what
not.
I have no idea what we've said in like the recording versus just in our regular conversation versus in the pre-recorded conversation. But sorry to go on a tangent.
We've been talking for 26 minutes and only been recording for 18. This doesn't last for a long time. I have like bills. But the statement / point of order that I wanted to talk about was something that you had always expressed interest to me in the past was getting players to voice or like narrate what NPCs are doing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like that went this time? I do have a follow-up to this as well, but I do want you to like just run wild in this open field that I've given you as a question.
If I had to ask for... Okay. Because there's two very good ways I think you could do that. And one is to have the players of their own volition just jump in and play an NPC, right? And goof around. Say like you're in a big crowd and they just started goofing as like, the best example I could give is like, oh, you're all in a line. And like, say they're in the line at the Spire Nebulosus, right? And then all the players just started goofing as like, goofing around and playing as like people in line, like these rich pompous people in line.
Oh, there's a frat boy in line.
Yeah, exactly.
What shenanigans are gonna happen here?
Like almost like a little improv skit. Like that's
real
that's a
improv
very fun
shit,
way for it to happen. But the other way for it to happen, which is the more likely way I think for our show and the way that has happened here, is me going, oh, you're now in charge of this person. What do you do? And Ben's reaction in that moment of like, for like a long time, it'll probably be edited down because it was just a lot of Ben being like,
it was a lot.
Shit, I don't know. Especially since I started with Ben. Ben is very quick on his feet and very adaptable, but it's like very seldom I feel like he's on the back foot, you know, or like on the receiving end of like that shock and surprise. Just because he is like, he's so quick to react to so many things, right? Like his brain moves really fast when
he is, but it feels like he is the one who is like the engine in any like chaotic scene that he's in.
Yes.
Where if he is adapting, he's adapting to a change that he was the origin of.
Exactly, because he thought of it, he's making it, so he had all the time to think this through.
He had already adapted 30 minutes ago.
Throwing him into a situation, especially I think a moment that they probably didn't anticipate to have direct control over, and that I was just going to narrate, because I think that this scene would be really reminiscent of Pets and Prophecies, specifically the moment that Mr. Wiggles, or Monty, if you recall, touched his collar and had like that recollection of his former life, right? And so I assume that that's what they thought was going to be coming. And then so to be able to surprise them a little bit and be like, you're in charge, what do you do? Is fun. Things that I would have done differently about that, however, would be there's a fine line between preparing them for that situation versus the fun of the surprise, right? And I always really enjoy the fun of the surprise. What I mean by that, and what I'm directly referencing, is when I'm like, what do you do? And Ben's like, oh, I cast a spell. And I'm like, oh, what spell? And he's like, I don't know, a spell, right? Like that. It's fine. It's good. It's still dramatic and stuff. But like those little hiccups, I don't know if there's a way to solve that, though.
Right. And like those are like, you know, the lack of detail there, I think, can also be used as a sort of, I don't know, the workshopper in me kind of views those as like things that we can or that you can adjust to better fit for, the actual scene in hand.
Yeah.
We don't know the spell that was cast because the memory is, so old, so faded. Like, it's one of those things that could easily be the answer there.
Yeah, I do think that that's a really good way of describing it, is just like due to the nature of it being a memory, etc., right? And there's a lot of leeway there that I do think is why it makes it fine, because it's still a very dramatic scene regardless of that. That is such a minor point that it's very unimportant unless you're just like, well, what spell slot did he use, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter, right? It's just one of those tiny little road bumps that no one cares about, but I'm still like, I wish it could have gone this other way.
What other way do you wish it could have gone?
Oh, I just wish I just don't know. There's this, I want there to be some sort of reconciliation between being able to surprise the players, but also giving them adequate knowledge to make a decision and competently. Not to say that he didn't work competently. I don't want to say that about Ben. He did an amazing job, and
he doesn't listen. It's okay.
Holy shit! I'm so pleased with that scene. I haven't edited it yet, but I was just grinning. I was so happy.
I'm a sucker for those kind of scenes, and it was you and Ben just nailed it.
Yeah.
So
the way that went with
as
Ben,
well.
Oh my gosh,
Terrassus.
So did Sarah. Oh my gosh. Sarah as Terrassus was
impeccable. Perfect casting.
If I will say, here's the behind the scenes of it. If Carla / Integrity had tried to do all 3 of the items, there would have been a steeper penalty, which is why I actually thought that she was going to do that with like the Jade Dagger and the wand and the orb. So that's kind of like what I had in the back of my head thought and prepared for. So then when she didn't do that, I was like, oh, well, I can't go with that super like steep, like kind of magical tax on her. What how do I do this now? So then you get like the little like slap on or like iron on patch of like, oh, well, roll Arcana and we'll just drain spell slots, etc. But in the event that she had gone with all 3 items, my plan was Ben as Faramel, Sam as Terrassus, and Sarah as Nesca, just because I really like that bullshit and it's really good.
Was actually a question that I had, which was, how did you choose who played which, or who played which entity?
I knew that Ben would be. It's this moment where you hope that a certain outcome is going to go, and the thing I could most closely relate it to is Weenie Hollow 2020. There, in case you haven't listened to it, spoilers for that. If you do not want spoilers, go and listen to it right now.
Listen to it; it's good.
It's pretty good. It's probably one of the best things we've made, especially as a self-contained unit. Very strong, I would say, and we had
very solid.
That was your spoiler warning, so now we're gonna get into it. Detective Doiron is like the unwilling sacrifice in the finale moment of that one shot, and in the draft of it, provided they had stayed and they had gone through with this whole this whole ceremony, he would be pushed into this gaping maw of the train and be in there, and he would have asked for them, pleaded out as this thing was going on, as he was bleeding to death, for them to like kill him, right? But then that scene didn't happen, but instead he still got shot, right? The gun that I put there with the intent for them to shoot him as he lay dying still got used to shoot him as he lay dying, even if the scenario wasn't exactly the same. So you go into these things with like certain hopes and certain dreams of how things might play out, which we've talked about in a previous episode. I wanted from the Faramel part for Faramel to be kind of ruthless in this way. Like, we know that this girl does not make it out alive. I know Faramel does. What does he do to that? And then Ben, I knew Ben would be able to make a harsh and dramatic decision in that moment, which is why I knew that if we're doing this, I would want Ben to be Faramel. And then for the other pairs, I think that Sarah, above everyone else, is capable of making incredibly dramatic decisions and will always make the more narratively interesting decision.
Hell
and
yeah.
I'm so thankful for that. If I need like a Hail Mary, like we need something right here, I'm like, Sarah, please. Right? Like a couple episodes ago when I'm like, oh, this is kind of a stinker exposition episode. Do a Mira, do a scene with integrity, right? And then as for Terrassus, the reason I think Sam would make a really good Terrassus is because, and I obviously won't go into the Nesca scene that I had thought of because we didn't get that. And Sam as Terrassus, I think would work very well because of then, like, Sam is very diplomatic and also good at extracting information and being very, like, accommodating, I think would be a good way of saying it. Which,
it's very clear with Serenep being the face of the party.
Yes.
For a lot of stuff. Like,
that's not necessarily also the way Sam always plays characters. I think I've gone on record of saying Serenep is like the most straight-laced, level-headed character Sam's ever played.
Yeah, we've seen Darcy.
Yeah, Sam goes like.
We've seen other Sam characters.
They're great.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And so Serenep being like a calm, cold, not calm or cold, but rational kind of person, or level-headed most of the time kind of person. Definitely not calm, as we saw.
Somewhat normal.
The one who can make responsible decisions. I thought that would be able to like carry over to Terrassus, who in this moment is dealing with this entity of, to our knowledge, unknown origin, who is slightly revered, slightly respected, but still underneath Terrassus for some reason in the pecking order, but still can be this imposing kind of figure and physically weird. The same way, like, when Integrity has, like, the progenitor kind of visions, dreams in her sleep, that the progenitor is, like, a very physically imposing character, I think, like, being
Absolutely.
like very close to the character in a very uncomfortable way, and so that weird it's like a weird nuanced little power dynamic, I guess, and I just thought Sam would do really well with that, while also asking questions to extract the appropriate information, I think, which Sarah also did a very good job of, right?
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, no matter who was playing those characters, I think we would have gotten very amazing and good scenes like we did.
So did their characters come into play at all, or is it just thinking about the players and how they act in these situations?
Okay, yeah, for the Terrassus thing, I was thinking this. I didn't know if it would be like, I stopped myself from going on a tangent, kind of another reason I didn't super want Sarah to play Terrassus. If it's difficult. The reason I did choose Sarah to play Terrassus was because of technical problems on the day of recording, which is just Sam's internet was funky, right? And so I just thought it would be like less, because you need to take technical considerations into play sometimes. It would be a more dramatic scene if we didn't have to cut the scene multiple times and try to redo stuff, because then that kind of stitching together can ruin some tension because you forget exactly the wording of things, etc. So for that unfortunate reason, I was like, Sarah, you're a Terrassus, etc., right? The same way, like, if Ben was having technical problems, I think I would have chosen Sarah to play Faramel, right? Etc., right? Like, these, all of them as players could have played any one of those characters. And then just due to unfortunate circumstances on the day of, Sarah played Terrassus, unfortunately. And the reason I say unfortunately is because Terrassus and Mira will one day speak again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And me then being in charge of a character and speaking to Mira, and Sarah's played both these characters, it's just a bit fishy and something that I would otherwise like to avoid, if that makes sense. There's not really a reason for that, right? It's just like, because these two characters interact in this way, I think it would be better for someone else to play this character, if that makes sense.
It's really interesting. It's actually really interesting you say that, because going into 119 cold, I obviously didn't know the backstory behind Sam being the original person to play Terrassus. It's interesting to me though, because I would have actually thought the exact opposite, which was if Sarah's character is the one who interacts with this character the most, who is going to be the most engaged in scenes with this character, wouldn't it make the most sense for her to be playing Terrassus? But also, there's also another fact of Sarah is also a unique case, just because, as you said, she has a very good eye and ear for the dramatic, and has a very good dramatic flair, I guess you could say. And also her character has ties to all three potential people who would be viewed.
I also think that Sarah, as well as Ben, have the capacity or a certain propensity when playing a character to choose violence that I wanted. In the way that Faramel hurt his friend. Yeah. And so in the event that all three had been chosen, I feel like Sam is the least likely to resort to violence. And also Terrassus isn't a violent character, so I feel like that fits very well. I know that I say Sam doesn't feel like the one to choose violence when the whole episode 24 fiasco went down. With Yelm and all that.
I didn't say anything.
You were making a face. Anyways, but still.
Hey, listen, the listeners can back me up. I did not make a face.
Yeah. The reason I wanted Sarah as an Esco was because I believed in Sarah's capacity to do harm to other fake characters.
That's hardcore.
So barring that.
Hell yeah, badass.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Wow. Okay. Gotcha. It is interesting to hear your reasoning behind it. And I don't know. I do like the fact that it was solely based on the player. And not also taking the character into consideration, because that's immediately where my mind went. So it's very cool for me to actually
That's interesting.
It's fun to be able to talk to you and actually learn the truth behind your intent around things like this. Because otherwise I would have been like, well, of course Sarah's going to be playing Terrassus because Mira talks with Terrassus, and also Sarah has that fanfic. So
that's another reason why I wanted her. Go read Event Horizon. I know it's already been plugged this episode, right?
Luke hasn't listened to the other half of the episode. Good. He just knows that we would have mentioned it.
We mention it every time we record. At some point, if Terrassus or Nesca or Shiora comes up, Sarah goes, "Go read Event Horizon," right?
Oh, it's a good pick. It's great.
Really good.
It's my favorite one out of all of them. But excellent, good stuff. Now, Luke, one more thing that I wanted to touch on before we wrapped up was just going to be on. It's very rare, it feels very rare to see inter-party conflict happen in the show.
Yeah.
So, talk to me about DMing. For that, and I don't know how much we can talk about this with near the end of 119, how Serenep, there is a big divide between Serenep and the rest of the party.
Yes.
How do you run a game with that in mind, and also keeping in mind the well-being of your players?
Yes. So there's two things. I think the first and paramount thing is just I have the second point you mentioned there of the players themselves, because we're all friends. We've been friends for a long time. When moments of potential frustration or that I perceive as this might be frustrating for some person pop up, it's very easy to just message that person or talk to them privately and be like, hey, is this all good? Just wanted to check in, etc. And so checking and just in general checking in with your players and knowing your players is really important. And so it's very easy to classify your players. I've already said Sarah is the type who will make narratively impactful decisions, right? And always choose the more important narrative thing, right? Even if that's suboptimal, choosing the more interesting option, right? And Sarah's on record of saying, I think she's on record of saying she's lied about her dice rolls so something bad would happen, which is wild.
That's the most Sarah shit. Coming as the person dating her, that's Sarah.
Meanwhile, Ben is a very fiddly, I want to break things kind of player. Always is I want to do things that will I really enjoy a fuck with something until you figure it out kind of puzzle. As you might tell by this arc, we've had a couple of them, or just situations, we've had a couple of them. And so Ben does really well in those because he loves fucking with stuff until it breaks. Right, which it can then go very fun for him because it leads to horrible scenarios, like the time he broke into Isithil when he started breaking things. Right, he asked me a million questions out of the game. I gave him very straightforward answers, had no idea what he was planning, and then just broke things when he touched them, and he got to roll with that, and it was great, and he really enjoyed that. Or the Polisherium, right, exact same thing. He just fucked with stuff, and then it broke, and it blew up in his face, and he had a great time. Carla is interesting because this is her first long format campaign. So I would place her as a very much of an all-rounder who is increasingly being getting better at staying with those suboptimal decisions, but gets very like worried about making them, right? Like worried for integrity's sake because she cares about the character and everything. Like she doesn't have the same like wild disregard for her character's health that like someone like Sarah has, who's just like, Mira can die, whatever, right?
I don't think Sarah has said that. Mira
Yeah.
has a girlfriend now, so like that would be.
But yeah, I know that Carla's still developing as a player. She's not as like easy to place as the rest of the players into bins. And I would say that Sam really enjoys when something goes optimally, which I feel like is evident in the way that the group dynamic works, but also is very keen on interesting things happening. And so wherever the intersection of uninteresting thing happening and that optimal situation coming out is where Sam like lives. And when that drifts away, it can get very frustrating, which I understand because when I play the game, when the game isn't happening the way I enjoy the game happening, it can get frustrating. And so that is a matter of just balancing what all of the players enjoy and making sure that it's being delivered on like a relatively good pace. And the combination of the character known as Ferdinand, as well as the whole situation, is just very suboptimal, I think, which leads to stress outside of the game for Sam, which we've talked about, and it's not a big deal because it's still very fun. But that means that since it's not a big deal out of the game, it can lead to very fun moments where Serenep can be very much fed the fuck up with someone like Ferdinand, right? Who has enchanted her friends, constantly lied to them, like all this kind of stuff, roped them into this whole ordeal when all Serenep wanted was a peaceful trip to Isithil, right?
Serenep kind of gets why there are these people who want to kill Ferdinand.
Yeah. And so then I think you can hear it in 118, and I loved it, was the second they walk into that, like, the second that Serenep, Winsler, and Mira walk into, like, the divinity, Isithil's divinity, right? And they see Integrity starting to cast the spell, and Ferdinand's, like, scooping up magic, like, godly magic in a fucking water flask. You can hear Sam, like, start getting actually angry, because Ferdinand just annoys the fuck out of, like, I think all the players. Because it's like, you're such an asshole. We're trying to save you, and you're just like an asshole.
She's the worst. She's not only a burden, she's a burden who's annoying about it, you know?
A burden who manipulates you and is an annoying person.
Yeah. If you had to carry, like, first of all, if you were tricked into carrying, like, a 40-pound backpack, let's say, for 10 miles, if someone brainwashed you into taking that, and then you found out that there are 3 people who really wanted that bag and wanted to kill you for it.
Yeah.
And then that bag also backtalked you and called you bad names and manipulated your friends.
It manipulated your friends. And then in front of your face stole magic and got your friend, your cousin, yelled at by an elder in a place you're already very uncomfortable being. I think it's very reasonable to be on edge at that point. Serenep is on record of being incredibly protective of her friends, and I feel like her scolding and scaring Ferdinand is no different. And I really liked that. I did check in with Sam afterwards, and I was like, "Hey, everything's good here. Everything's good here, right?" Because if you're a game master, fucking do that with your players.
Oh,
right.
It doesn't make sense to me that there are like people who can't do that, because like I check in even when there hasn't been a big thing going on. Like,
yes, just talk to your friends about the thing, right?
Oh yeah, DM advice. Tip number 4: talk with your friends.
And so, like, I feel like that was a very cathartic thing to just, like, let it all out and be like, you asshole, put that back. Like, what the hell are you doing? You're, like, screwing us all over despite us trying to help you. And it's fun. It's dramatic. It's inter-party conflict that we're all comfortable with. If we weren't comfortable with it, it would not be there. I can guarantee that. And so it's cool, and it puts it in a very fun position of, I've been really thinking about what is Ferdinand's play here.
Yeah.
Because getting that divine, that godly magic was the reason that she wanted to come here.
Yeah, that's the play. And now
Yeah.
she doesn't have that.
It's like she was almost withholding a lot of information from them, like, oh, let's go to the loft. Shucks, I don't know. Maybe there'll be stuff there. Oh, dang, Integrity. Let's go in this crazy room. Wow, who knew this was here? And then Integrity's like, you stay out here. And then she immediately comes in and grabs something. Like, obviously something is up here, right? She knew about the existence of this stuff, was back in the plane, already planning to go here for... Like, there is so much, I feel like the clues are there to show that this was her game plan. And so now, like, being called out in the open where she can't rely on subterfuge, she's literally just been caught red-handed. It's very difficult to just carry on with the plan. And so I feel like she's very much now backed into a corner, right?
Hell yeah.
Which is a good place to be, in my opinion.
That's a fucking terrifying place to be.
It's a terrifying place for the players.
Oh, yeah, no.
For me, absolutely wonderful. Enemies all around. It's a great time. Yeah. If your party's dealing with inter-party conflict, make sure everyone's comfortable. Talk to your players. Know your players first and foremost, right? And just
y'all have been playing together for ages. Like, you know, there are certain things that you don't put like on your players the first session.
Yes. Things. Yeah. If you start by going into like we have an argument, then it can be good if everyone's on the same page.
Exactly.
But, like, it's just make sure everyone's on the same page. Expectations are matched all around, and you'll have a good time. Because we're having a time. I think everyone came away from 119 and 118 like very happy and nervous for what's coming next, which is likely just the end of the arc very, very, very soon. Or at least I fucking hope, because holy shit, I don't know if it went on for like another 6 episodes, I don't know what the fuck is happening anymore.
Can't wait to get Autumn's End sometime in 2022.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, let us end here with, what is it you said? Good feelings and like nervousness about what's coming next? Is that how they ended 119? Let's end CNC4 the same way. Just big hearts, clear eyes, can't lose. Cut this. Absolute dog shit send off. Fuck. God, anywho, thank you, Luke, for sliding into the DMs with me, your host, Nathan.
No problem. I'm the DMs.
Fucking check us out on Twitter at Trials and
Trebs.
Oh, are you doing it on even numbered episodes now?
No, I forgot. Sorry.
No, but hey, what's our Instagram?
At Trials and Trebs.
That's what I fucking thought it was. Tell them our Patreon.
It's patreon.com/Trials and Trebs. We have some new goals.
Well,
Check
feel
them out.
free to join also the Discord, which you can see a link to here in the episode description. Just click on that, join us, and feel free to write in any questions, theories, or things like that you have for the show. Send them on over to me, and I would be happy to feature them somehow in the show one way or the other.
Yeah.
Also, help me think of a good idea for that theory game that I played with the players. Still working on the name. It's been like 2 days. Still can't think of a good one. I'm really not committed to tinfoilery, but if that's all we got...
Tinfoilery was like the placeholder from like the brainstorm, and I cannot believe that nothing better got thought of. That is the first time I've ever come up with a name that made it into anything ever.
It's a tough thing to name, to be fair. I tried going with like a game theory joke. Nothing there. No legs. Instead of telling me that it was bad, Sarah just started complimenting me and telling me how much she loved me. That's how bad it was.
Wow, you're so beautiful.
No joke. It was very much like, thank God you're pretty.
Oh my gosh.
Well, anywho, thank you all very much for joining us, for tuning in.
Yeah.
Come back, not next week, but the week after, where we're going to be discussing episodes 120 and 121. It's going to be a good time.
Maybe it'll be the finale. Maybe it'll be the arc finale. Who knows?
Who knows?
I hope it is.
Maybe the CNC finale. Who's to say? Only one way to find out, and that's to tune in and join in next week on Conversations and Catapults.